Hey everybody, welcome to today's show. And I've got to tell you right off the bat, this is going to be an insane show. It's multifaceted. I'm going to be sharing some really awesome things that God has been doing. And I'm also going to be sharing some unbelievably supernatural stories that connect to what we're doing right here today, what we have been doing these last 7 years, and connecting it to something that took place that was very supernatural and eerie, honestly. It was eerie in Peru. And I'm going to be sharing some content on today's program that if you've never heard me talk about it before, you will initially think, Zach, you have lost your mind. You are an insane person, okay? But by the end, I can say with almost certainty, you're going to agree with me. I'm going to give you cold, hard facts from the horse's mouths, from very credible sources. It's going to be a wild program. It's probably going to be 2 programs. But before I get into the main topic, and Andrew's going to be joining me in probably 10 minutes or so, I want to give an absolutely amazing update. Last month I was in Peru. I was on this amazing missionary trip, and I believe that God is calling us to partner with a local church in Iquitos, Peru, a jungle city, to raise up the dirt on the ground so that whenever it rains, it doesn't flood the sanctuary, but also to raise the dirt up and their backfield to a certain level, so that we can help build an institute that will send dozens of missionaries out deep into the Amazon jungle to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. I believe that we'll likely be going there a couple of times a year. I announced on our last program that they need $16,500 for dirt, around 300 truckloads of dirt at $55 a truckload, an absolutely astounding number. I did the math here in Illinois, that 1 truckload of dirt, and then to bring the machinery to grade the dirt is around $700 for the full truckload and the grading, $700. That means it would be over $200,000 here in Central Illinois, $16,500 to bring in the dirt and to grade it in Iquitos. I announced it. I was talking to the missionary we've partnered with in Lima, Peru. And I said, I don't know if the partners are going to get behind it, Josh, but I can tell you I'm behind it. I am passionate about it. And let me tell you, you guys have blessed the socks right off of me. We announced it, and as of right now, we have raised just over $10,300. Amazing. And once we raise that $16,500, that's the dirt. Phase 2 is the perimeter wall, and phase 3 is the institute. I am so excited, and I am so blessed by your faithfulness. There's a few people that I want to mention. First, Dan and Marianne. For those of you who've watched the show, you've heard me talk about Dan and Marianne often. They are such faithful partners of this ministry. Thank you for your generous gift. I want to thank Becky. I want to thank Mary. I want to thank Chris. I want to thank Shalina. I want to thank Glenn. I want to thank Linda. I want to thank my Grandma Sue. My Grandma Sue came up to me at church and said, here's a check. Here's a check for dirt. Love you, Grandma. And I want to talk about, I don't mention last names. I want to talk about Richard, okay? I got to tell you a story that honestly made me sit back this week and just smile. I couldn't believe it. So a few years ago on this show, we talked, and we've talked about it several times. You know that I talk about bullion, silver and gold and precious metals, the stock market, things like that. But it was a particular show we were talking about silver, and we talked about uncertainty, we talked about instability, we talked about being wise in how we steward what God gives us. It was nothing hype, just common sense. And a man named Richard was listening. Richard is 79, and he took that information and he went out and bought silver bullion, silver eagles to be exact. And over time, they increased significantly in value. And this week he reached out and said, Zach, I want to give them to the ministry. 50 silver eagles. Now pause for a second. I'm reading the email, couldn't believe it. He didn't have to do that. He could have held them. He could have sold them and kept the gain. But instead he said, let's turn this into kingdom impact. So here's what's about to happen. Silver that was purchased during uncertain times in America, it's going to be sold and turned into literal dirt for a church floor in Iquitos, Peru. Dirt. So believers in the jungle can gather on solid ground. So pastors can be trained. So the gospel can move forward. That's incredible. What started as prudence became provision. What grew in value is now being released in faith. And I just think that that's such a picture of how God works. He blesses stewardship and then he stirs generosity. And then he multiplies impact far beyond what we could imagine. And so, Richard, thank you. That is what eternal investment looks like. And so from your gift and from the others, we have been able to say so far, we have been able to raise $10,300, and I think it's $84. Okay, so we're almost there for the dirt, the $16,500. Listen, I'm going to change the direction of this show, my friends, and it is very, very connected. It's going to get wild, so buckle up. It's going to be a two-parter. And also, I want to golly, if you want to give, please give to Iquitos. You can go to ZachDrewShow.com and click that bright orange donate button. I'm asking anybody who gives online, whether they give $10 or they give $10,000, make the ending number 55 cents. And that way, whenever we're looking through, because it's $55 per truckload. So it's just a little marker for us. It means nothing other than it's a marker. So if you're thinking about giving $25, give $25 and 55 cents, right? So that we know that that $25 and 55 cents is designated to the $55 truckloads in Iquitos. You can also give Zach Drew Show, P.O. Box 797, Decatur, Illinois, 62525. Okay, I need to slow this down because what I'm about to tell you reframed this entire trip for me. I didn't know when I was going to talk about it. I knew the moment it took place, which was day one in Iquitos, I'm going to be talking. I thought it was the whole purpose of the missions trip. Like, God, what are you about ready to do? And then God unleashed so many other things. You all know that I have talked significantly about the most powerful psychedelic on planet Earth, Ayahuasca. I've talked about it on this program for years. Not as a party drug, not as a trend, but as something unbelievably spiritual. And it's going to become commonplace. I'm telling you that. I feel it in my bones. It's something that's so deceptive, and it's something spreading so rapidly, and so many people just still do not know about it. I have warned that celebrities are flying into the Amazon for it over the years, that millions here in the US are now smoking synthetic versions. And this isn't marijuana. This isn't like this is very, very, very spiritual. It is opening up things. People are having salvation experiences and they're being totally destroyed. And it's being reframed as healing, as medicine. And one day it will be normalized and sold, not as mysticism, but as therapy here in the United States. And it's beginning right now. And you're going to believe me by the end of this little mini-series. But here's what I never expected. And all the time studying it, I never studied the map. I always knew it was Amazon. I wasn't studying a map. I never tracked the epicenter. I was watching the movement, not the origin. And I am beside myself. I was beside myself. Because I get invited on a missions trip. No strategy here, no agenda. I just felt like I was supposed to go. And I land in a city in the Amazon, a city you cannot drive to, no roads in, only planes, only boats. And I'm standing there, and I happen to be talking to a local Christian man that I met named Freddie. And he spoke English, so it was fun to talk to him. And he looks at me and he says something that stopped me cold. He said, "This city has changed because the world is flying here for ayahuasca. And I froze. Here's just a quick little clip from Freddie and I talking on the side of the street in Iquitos. Pastor Derek and the crew and I are walking a little boardwalk here in the city of Iquitos, down by the Amazon River, and we hear a man start speaking to us in English. And so we chatted for a little bit, and he asked if we were missionaries, and I said, well, that's the the pastor over there, and he started telling me that he was had done several missions type of trips with the Nazarene Church to build structures in this area. And he just started talking to us about his city, and how tourism has changed so much in the last 20 years. And Derek, like myself, initially were under the impression that he meant, tourism is better, the city is growing, this and that. And he surprised us by saying, no, it's not better, it's much, much worse. And his name is Freddie, and Freddie is actually sitting right next to me right now. Right. So, Freddie, can you tell me, and there's really, you can just talk like you and I are talking right now, yes, honestly, but what has taken place in the city of Iquitos, and how has it changed your life, and just talk to me about it.
Okay, really in 2000, they started in 2000, the first company they opened here for ayahuasca, I was thinking that they grow up a bad way. Why? Because when the tourists come here, they buy more drugs, natural and chemicals drugs. Mm-hmm. So the tourists is no more like a normal tourists. They come to see the city, to see the jungle. But most of the tourists come here to do ayahuasca here. So 70% tourists was ayahuasca. So 48 different retreats here, they do ayahuasca. Also, it's the community, you go to the restaurant, ayahuasca menu, the shop,
there's ayahuasca on the menu?
Yes.
Oh my
gosh. Dietas, like a no salt or sugar. So they make like that.
And people can have these psychedelic experiences while just sitting in a restaurant eating food?
No.
Okay.
Just like a plate, no salt, no sugar, like a dieta.
Gotcha. So they're making it like, come here, we have ayahuasca in our toys, and we make toys and souvenirs out of ayahuasca.
Yeah,
but it's a marketing thing.
Yeah, marketing also in a restaurant, ayahuasca for dieta too, in a restaurant.
Well, these are
Look at this.
essential oils, guys, right?
Essential oil. Essential oil ayahuasca. It's essential oil. So like what Freddie was saying was that they make souvenirs, and they'll make plates out of it and stuff like that, more as a marketing thing, where they market ayahuasca, as part of their tourism. All right. So I'm standing there talking to Freddie. He says, this city has changed because the world is flying here for ayahuasca. And I didn't say anything when he first said that. I just pulled out my phone afterwards, having this chilling feeling about what the answer to this question was going to be. And I typed in one thing: ayahuasca, capital of the world. And I just stared at the screen, and my stomach dropped. Because there it was, Iquitos, Peru. Iquitos. The city I was standing in, the airport I landed at, the docks I walked past, the place you can only reach by plane or boat, the epicenter. And I remember thinking, God, what are you doing? And for those of you that have watched over the years, you understand how crazy of a moment that had to have been for me. Because in that moment, nothing about this trip felt random anymore. Years of warning, years of research, years of talking about a spiritual counterfeit spreading across the world. And now I'm standing in the place it flows out from. Scripture tells us there are moments when humanity reaches for revelation outside of God. And those moments always follow a pattern. I didn't understand yet how deep it went. But I knew this wasn't just a missions trip, that it was going to be a multifaceted thing. I felt it then that something was truly converging. And I'm going to bring Andrew on in just a few minutes. Many people have tuned into the show over the last even just several weeks. But thousands of you found this program over the years because we talked about this stuff. you'd write in and say, why has no one told us about this? How is this everywhere, yet we've never heard about it? And the whole time I was warning about it, I had no idea that one day God would put my feet on the runway of the very city it exploded from. And here's what I just can't shake it, guys. I didn't target the city. I didn't plan it. I didn't even realize it, but God knew. While thousands fly into the airport looking for altered consciousness, we are raising dirt to preach the unaltered gospel in the same city, the same jungle, but a very different spirit. And I'm just kind of setting the tone here for where we're going with this program. Because listen to how people describe ayahuasca. They say, and there's thousands and thousands of testimonies. It healed me. It showed me truth. I died and was reborn. Mother Ayahuasca saved me. This is salvation language. This is testimony language. But the object is not Christ. Scripture says Satan masquerades as an angel of light. It is so deceiving because the deception is not grotesque. It feels loving. It feels enlightening. It feels compassionate. But there's a new vision here. If you've listened to the last couple of weeks of programs, what if the gateway works both ways? What if the very city known for counterfeit spiritual encounters becomes a city that sends out gospel proclamation? What if the same docks where people get on boats looking for a false god become the very docks where missionaries get on boats carrying the name of Jesus? I don't think that's random. I think God wastes nothing. And tonight, I want to show you why this matters, why this isn't some fringe jungle story, and why and we're going to get to it, when medicine, celebrities, whenever universities, clinical trials, I'm talking Johns Hopkins, I'm talking the University of California, I'm talking about several different states within the union already approving this in their local bodies so that it's law in their books in the United States, whenever there are millions and millions of people that I know personally that have called me not knowing anything about what I know concerning this. I have had friends physically call me because they know I'm a Christian and they want to tell me that they're so excited to talk to me because they had an experience and they talk to God. And I come and I sit down and talk with them and I realize that they've consumed the synthetic version of DMT. Because everybody, thousands of people, they all have the exact same experience. They all go to the same place. They all speak to the same entities. They all have the same type of fake salvation experience. If they get to the very end, they speak to a fake God that they have now named Mother Ayahuasca. And I remember I was talking to one individual that I knew from my past that did not know any of this. They didn't know the term Mother Ayahuasca. They hadn't heard thousands of people talk about these things. And he said, Zach, newsflash for you, God is a woman. And I knew that he was talking to what they referred to as Mother Ayahuasca. But whenever all these things converge, the medicine, the celebrities, and mysticism all start moving in the same direction, whenever they're converging like this, it says that something is happening. And I believe that the church needs to wake up. We'll be right back. I'm going to bring Andrew Bellers on after this. All right, welcome back. Got the man, the myth, the legend with me now.
Right here.
Andrew Bellers.
Yeah.
Andrew, okay, so launch us into ayahuasca. I want you to kind of lay the foundation. And I just need to preface it one more time, people. It's going to get buck wild. It is going to get so wild. And by the end, if you're watching on social media, you're blessed because you'll actually be able to see the entire program in its entirety. This would be like an hour program. So if you're watching on television, this will be edited up into two different shows, one week and then the next week. But if you're watching on social media, you're going to see the whole thing right now. So you're going to see, if you're watching on social media, you're going to see how this all connects by the very end.
Yeah. So if you're not watching on social media, start watching on social media.
Start watching on social media, people.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about ayahuasca.
Let's talk about it.
So I'm just going to go through some bullet points here. Ayahuasca is not some modern invention, even though we're hearing a lot about it now and it's become very popular. It's been around for a long time. So it comes from the Amazon. And traditionally, it's a brew that's made from specific plants found in the jungle. So today, the main compound, DMT, you've probably heard about DMT, can also be made synthetically and smoked, producing a very similar encounter. Although we might get into it, we've talked a lot about it before, it's typically a much shorter encounter.
Typically, yeah, ayahuasca, if you go through the shaman route, it's like it can be up to 4-hour ceremony, even can be longer. DMT, you smoke it, and it is a blast-off type of experience, and it can last somewhere around 15 minutes. But the encounter is the same, and time stands still. They feel like time ceases to exist.
That's right.
And we shared the stats before on the program. I don't even know the new stats. Whenever I shared the stats 3 years ago, it was like somewhere between 10 to 20 million Americans. There's 330 million Americans.
Yeah.
10 to 20 million Americans have already had these religious experiences, and it's not recreational. Almost everybody that does it goes in, knows this is going to be a very difficult thing. This is not some fun recreational, let's get high and have a good time type of psychedelic.
That's right.
It is very difficult, and you typically only do it one time, and you come back saved. And we're going to be showing you one testimony from a very, very famous man on today's program. But before that, lay the groundwork.
Yeah, and so even though DMT, if you smoke DMT, is only like a 15-minute experience in real time, for a lot of these people, it feels like much longer. You have to understand, this is a 15-minute experience that for people who do this is life-changing, that they don't see the rest of their life the same ever again. So that's DMT.
And they're going to put it in our medicine, people. Little teaser, go ahead.
Yeah. So millions, like you said, millions of Americans have experimented with this. But here's the part that matters, okay? Shamans say the knowledge of how to combine these plants wasn't discovered through trial and error. They say that spirits showed it to them through their shamans. And out of the tens of thousands of plant species in the Amazon, there is one specific vine. There's only one vine that contains the compound that allows DMT to become active in the body. And I don't even know if we'll show this part of the clip from Grant Hancock, but it's crazy because...
That's the famous person, by the way.
Because there's a leaf that has DMT in it, which is ayahuasca, but this vine is the only way that your body can actually... that the DMT can be activated in your body.
If you do it without the vine, your body is going to have tons and tons of DMT in it. There'll be no tripping, there'll be no experience, it'll just excrete it out. But there is that one singular vine of the tens of thousands of species of vines that if you mix it with it, it shuts off that enzyme in the stomach and allows the DMT to have this absolutely full-blown, multi-dimensional experience where you talk to entities and you talk to a fake god.
Yeah, it's crazy. So they claim that this combination was revealed to them, like I said, by spirits. So spirits telling humans which plants to combine to open altered states of consciousness. And that language should at least make us pause. You know, because the idea of supernatural beings revealing hidden knowledge to humanity, that's not new. And we're gonna break this wide open later, but we're getting to Genesis 6 and the days of Noah. And, you know, a lot of people don't know this. I didn't know this until this week. But Peru, so there are civilizations in Peru that likely predate the flood.
Yes.
Yeah. So there are, they call them the cradles of civilization. There are 6 of them in the world. And these are places where, like ancient historians say that the first complex civilizations cropped up independently. And those places are Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Indus Valley, so India, China, the Olmec, which is Mesoamerica, which is like Central America. And then the last one, Karl Supe, which is in Peru.
And these just so happen to be these 6 spots in the world that have a common denominator of ancient writings, whether they're hieroglyphics or pyroglyphics, with these massive beings with 6 fingers and 6 toes, and these massive, monolithic structures that no modern man, no modern science can explain how it came to be. It's in 6 locations around the world, and one of them happens to be in Peru, the same place where the shamans say the spirits taught them how to partake in this ancient ceremony.
Yeah. They're called antediluvian societies, which means that they're pre-flood. So we're talking about the days of Noah. And what did we see in the days of Noah? We saw forbidden knowledge, and we saw boundaries being crossed.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to spend I think it's important that we do talk about Genesis 6. I don't want it to be a big part of the show, maybe 3 or 4 minutes. So I will start by saying this. What made the days of Noah different, okay? Because Jesus did not casually reference Noah. He did not say, as it was in the days of Sodom. He did not say, as it was in the days of Egypt. He said, as it was in the days of Noah. So it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. And I believe that is also multifaceted, But why Noah? I think one of the main things is because Noah's generation crossed a line that shouldn't be crossed. According to ancient testimony preserved in texts like Enoch and echoed in Jude, the watchers, as Enoch calls them, taught mankind forbidden knowledge. And I want to just throw out there that the book of Enoch is not a part of the canon. It was, we had a whole teaching on this actually, that it should at least be viewed as a historical document with some errors likely within it because it did not make it through the canon. But a lot of our early church fathers recognized it. They taught from it. Jude speaks from it. 1 Peter references it. It was a very, very modern book. For the first couple hundred years, it was revered in our early church history.
And for the longest time, the only version that we had of it was in the Ethiopian Bible.
Which it's actually still in the Ethiopian Bible.
It is, yeah.
But
that was the only version that we had of it until, older versions were discovered.
All right, yeah, exactly. So according to ancient testament, like I said, preserved in Enoch, the watchers taught mankind forbidden knowledge. So I'm just going to talk about it just for a couple minutes. Genesis 6, sons of God, daughters of men, and giants on earth. This is referred to as the angel view of Genesis 6. In the book of Genesis, there is a brief but chilling passage, and it hints at a strange union in humanity's early days. Genesis chapter 6, verse 1 and 2 says this in the New King James Version. Now it came to pass when men began to multiply, this is Noah's day, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth and daughters were born to them, that, here it is, the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves of all whom they chose. And then I'm going to break that down in a second, but let's go to verses 3 and 4. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not strive with man forever, for he is indeed flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years, the Nephilim on the earth in those days and also afterward. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterward. When the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them, those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. So first off, Nephilim means the fallen ones. The root is nephal, to fall, to be cast down, to fall away, to desert. This text, all right, Genesis 6:4, describes an era before the great flood when powerful beings called sons of God. So now what is that? Is that just men? No. Many interpret sons of God as fallen angels, or as the book of Enoch would call them, watchers, and their offspring as the Nephilim, or a race of giants or demigods. Now, why do we take that view? Because the term in Hebrew, that's Genesis, for sons of God, the word that's used there is always and only, and I'm talking exclusively, used for direct creations of God throughout the Old Testament. It is an entirely different word that is ever used for human beings. And there's several different examples of this. If we don't have time, this show ain't about this today. And the phrase, heroes of old, men of renown, suggests these hybrid beings left a huge impression on ancient history. Other ancient sources fill in more details, like I said, according to the Book of Enoch, which is not a part of the biblical canon, but was widely circulated in the Second Temple period. Like I said, Jude quotes from it directly. But Enoch describes these rebellious beings descending, corrupting humanity, and teaching forbidden knowledge. And on different shows, we'll actually read through this historical document, and it says that these beings that came down taught weapon making, sorcery, enchantments, astrology, hidden arts, and the cutting of roots, okay? And the cutting of roots. All right, this would have included mind-altering psychedelics, right? Because it's like the children's, like I always give that analogy. It's like, which one doesn't fit, right? They're teaching sorcery and enchantments and astrology and hidden arts and how to take out a little pocket knife and cut some roots. Like, no, that one doesn't fit. It's not saying the cutting of roots, and after what?
It's not gardening.
No, it's not, they had some green thumbs.
Yep.
These massive beings, they knew their way in the garden. No.
Yeah.
And so like what Andrew just said, these shamans say the ancient spirits taught us how the cutting of these roots, right? And so this would have been including mind-altering psychedelics, the Watchers and their offspring, which would have been half terrestrial, half celestial beings, showed humanity advanced sorcery. And just a quick side note, anytime giants are mentioned, most of the time, giants are mentioned in the Old Testament, they always have 6 fingers and 6 toes. Yep. And that is why I think it's so crazy whenever you look at, whether, like I said, hieroglyphics or pyroglyphs, whether you're in Egypt or whether you're in Central America, and you have these drawings and these massive beings and all these other people bowing down and worshiping these crazy beings. That if you look at them, everybody has 5 fingers and 5 toes, except for the big ones. And the big ones always have 6 fingers and 6 toes. And that is exactly what the Word of God says they have. And so they would have possessed some type of supernatural. They took these women and they had babies with them, and they created these offspring that were half terrestrial, half celestial, that literally had some type of crazy knowledge.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that the 6 oldest civilizations, the cradle civilizations.
Yeah, and that's the other connection here. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the pyramids in Central America. And it's like, so we have pyramids in Egypt, and then totally on the other side of the world, we have pyramids in Central America. We have pyramids in South America. And Peru is one of those places. You've probably seen Machu Picchu, but there's this other place in Cusco called Sacsayhuaman, where they have these massive megalithic structures. And they're made out of these boulders. I mean, you see like on Ancient Aliens and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Where they're like, we still don't know how the pyramids are made. And there's all of these theories about like, aliens came down and gave this secret knowledge, which, sounds familiar. We give them different names. But, these people must have had some kind of secret knowledge to build these advanced things. Well, you see the same things in Peru. These massive boulders that completely dwarf humans. I mean, they look huge compared to people. Mm-hmm. Expertly put together so tightly that you couldn't even pass a piece of paper between where these rocks join. It's just crazy the parallels that you see between these ancient civilizations.
That's right. So let's be clear about something right up front. Once again, this is not just, this is not my generation. It's like the old generation was like, oh, don't be smoking that marijuana. Mm-hmm. I don't think you should be smoking marijuana anyway. But I'm saying like, this isn't the equivalent of my generation saying, don't be doing that ayahuasca. This is not marijuana. This is not somebody getting high at a party. DMT, whether it's smoked directly or taken through ayahuasca, is described by the people who take it as a full-on spiritual encounter. They even call it the spirit molecule. They don't say, I saw some colors. They say, I left my body, I entered another realm, I met beings, time disappeared, I was given knowledge, I encountered God. That is not recreational language. That's religious language. Now, here's what makes this stand out, okay? And I need to preface it that not all drugs are created equal, right? I mean, you have like your opioids and your fentanyls and your Percocets and this and that, and those are bad. Those are addictive. Those will kill you. Psychedelics are still, they're under the umbrella of drugs. but psychedelics are completely different. They are spiritual in nature. And most psychedelics, what they do is they distort perception, right? And I've said this on this program before, different people have different experiences when taking psychedelics, right? But with DMT, something absolutely unusual happens because you can have 5 different people in 5 different places who don't know each other, and they come back describing very similar encounters in similar environments, similar entities, similar communication. It's very, very consistent. If somebody else just took 5, they just all dropped LSD, they're all going to have different experiences. But like I said, you put the 5 across the United States, don't know each other, they're all going to have this, they're all going to go to the same place, same entities. It's opening up something. It's very consistent. And I saw a lot of this art whenever I was in Peru. They will, a lot of people will paint while they are under the influence of ayahuasca, or they will come back from their experience and try to paint what they saw. And you can, as soon as you see a painting, you automatically can tell that this was ayahuasca inspired. Because the common reports include hyper-geometric realms, mechanical or machine-like environments, serpent imagery, interdimensional beings, telepathic communication, a sense of being examined, operated on, or cleansed, complete dissolution of time. It reports, of meeting and being soothed or corrected or comforted, I guess, by this fake woman god that they have called Mother Ayahuasca. And here's the part that matters as well. The people who take this thing don't come back saying this was a crazy dream, like I said, or I just saw some colors. They say it's very, very specific. They say it was real. They come back feeling like that their entire life is but a shadow. It's like imagine. It's like see-through. That what they experienced was far, far, far more real than anything they have ever experienced in their life. So whenever someone tries to tell them what you experience is not real, they say, "How I can't trust you. Like, you're not real, man."
Yeah.
Like I'm not, and it's funny, but for real, it's like what they have experienced was so much more real and so much more tangible than the tangible life that they have had thus far. Everything pales into comparison to the realness of what they go through. That it was real. It's not imagination. It's not fantasy, not something that they felt like they made up in their own mind. They describe what they encountered as intelligent, aware, communicating, in other words, conscious. And that's important because even people who used to believe reality was purely physical, I'm talking about atheists. And I hate the word testimony because I attribute testimony to like legitimate testimony of like Christ changing lives. But I have listened to testimony after testimony, and it's like a common consensus. There is no such thing as an atheist that goes in to an ayahuasca ceremony or to a smoking DMT and comes back as an atheist. Many people are coming, when I say, purely believe in the physical, I'm talking about atheists. They come back and they say, I can't believe that anymore. I might not know all of the answers, but there is something that absolutely exists. I spoke with it. I spent time with it. I can't believe that anymore. Like I said, they don't say I saw patterns. They say I met someone. It is a false salvation experience.
Yeah. I think they're getting a peek behind the curtain. Paul talks about how we see through a glass darkly. How, even the encounters that we have with God, they're fleeting. They happen in moments. And the moments I'm talking about, when you have those manifest experiences with God, where you're overwhelmed with emotion and you identify that you are in the presence of something supernatural, and then it's gone like a vapor. Like God gives us those peeks behind the curtain in our natural life. And I feel like, this is when you see witchcraft in scripture, this is the kind of stuff it's talking about. It's an illegal means by which humans try and get that peek behind the curtain, by which humans try and touch the supernatural realm and try and become like gods. That's why it's illegal in scripture. And so that it goes beyond, for the most part, I think when you're having a psychedelic experience, you're messing with chemicals in your brain. You're having weird experiences. This is something totally different. These are people having spiritual and supernatural experiences with supernatural beings.
I'm going to play it. I played it on the show before. I'm going to play a clip from a banned TED Talk that you can find now on YouTube, just not through the TED Talk officials page. But it is of Graham Hancock, very, very famous, very, very famous. He's an older man, but he's very famous with our generation too. Mm-hmm. He is on the biggest platforms in the world, the largest podcast in the world. He's a best-selling author. He's a world-recognized investigative journalist. He gave a TED Talk one time, and this is what launched me. This was years and years and years and years ago. This might have been, I don't even know when it might have been 15 years ago, where it was one of the first times I had ever heard about ayahuasca. And I want to share with you, and it has grown so vastly since then, so many more developments since then. But if you've never heard of this before, I'm going to lay the foundation of Graham Hancock sharing the benefits of ayahuasca. And as he's sharing his testimony, look for the religious language during this TED Talk.
Now, normally, DMT cannot be activated orally. When we encounter it in the West, it's generally smoked. There's an enzyme in our stomachs called monoamine oxidase, which switches off DMT on contact. But in the Amazon, they've got round this problem, and they say it was the spirits that taught them how to do it. The DMT in the ayahuasca brew is contained in these leaves from a plant that they call chacruna in the Amazon. And there they mix it together with this vine. And out of the 150,000 different species of plants and trees in the Amazon, this is the one that contains a monoamine oxidase inhibitor, which switches off that enzyme in our stomachs and allows the DMT in the leaves, when the two are married together and cooked in water, to be absorbed orally, and takes us on a 4-hour journey into extraordinary realms. Now, it's no joke to drink ayahuasca. The ayahuasca brew it has a foul taste, really, really hideous, and a dreadful, dreadful smell. And after you've drunk your cup, you'll find within 45 minutes or so that you're sweating, that you're feeling nauseous. Pretty soon you may well be vomiting, you may well have diarrhea. So, nobody's doing this for recreation. And I'd like to add that I don't think any of the psychedelics should be used for recreation. They have much more serious and important mission with humanity. So we're not doing this for fun. But what draws people to ayahuasca again and again to brace themselves for this experience, and you do have to brace yourself, is its extraordinary effects at the level of consciousness. And one of those effects has to do with creativity, and we can see the creative cosmogenic impulse of ayahuasca in the paintings of ayahuasca shamans from Peru, like the paintings of Pablo Amaringo here, those richly saturated colors, the amazing visions that they reproduce. And this creative impulse has also spread to Western artists. Many Western artists now have been deeply influenced by ayahuasca and are also painting their visions. And as these paintings show, another universal experience of ayahuasca is the encounter with seemingly intelligent entities which communicate with us telepathically. Now, I'm making no claim one way or another as to the reality status of these entities we encounter, simply that phenomenologically, in the ayahuasca experience, they are encountered by people all over the world. And most frequently of all, the spirit of ayahuasca herself, Mother Ayahuasca, who is a healer. And although she's kind of the mother goddess of the planet, She seems to take a direct personal interest in us as individuals, to heal our ills, to want us to be the best that we can possibly be, to correct errors and mistakes in our behavior that may be leading us down the wrong path. Ayahuasca has been fantastically successful in getting people off harmful addictions to hard drugs such as heroin and cocaine. Jacques Mabit at the Taquihuasi Clinic in Peru brings heroin and cocaine addicts out there for a month, gives them 12 ayahuasca sessions, and they have encounters with Mother Ayahuasca during those sessions that lead them not to wish to take heroin or cocaine anymore, and more than half leave completely free of their addiction, never return to it, and don't even have withdrawal symptoms. And the same incredible healing work was being done in Canada by Dr. Gabor Mate until the Canadian government intervened and stopped his healing practice on the grounds that ayahuasca itself was an illegal drug. Now, I have some personal experience of this. I have not been addicted to heroin or cocaine, but I had a 24-year non-stop cannabis habit. And this started off smoking the herb and laterally vaporizing it, but the basic truth is that for 24 years, I was pretty much permanently stoned. And I enjoyed being stoned. And I felt that it helped me with my work as a writer, and perhaps at some point it did. But when I first encountered ayahuasca, I'd already been smoking cannabis for 16 years, and almost immediately, ayahuasca started giving me messages that this was no longer serving me, that it was leading me to behave in negative and unhelpful ways towards others. And of course, I ignored those messages for years and years and went back to being stoned 16 hours a day. But that negative behavior that ayahuasca was pointing up did actually get worse and worse. I don't want to put down cannabis, and I believe it's the sovereign right of every adult to choose to smoke cannabis if they wish to do so. But I think I was overusing it. I think I was abusing it, not using it responsibly. And I became more and more paranoid, jealous, possessive, suspicious. I was subject to irrational rages. I often made the life of my beloved partner, Santha, a misery. And when I went down for my regular encounter with ayahuasca in October 2011, I was given the most unbelievable kicking by Mother Ayahuasca. And I was put through an ordeal. It was a kind of life review. And it's not an accident that ayahuasca is the vine of the dead. I was shown my death. And I was shown that if I came to death and what awaits us after death, without having corrected the mistakes that I was making in my life, that it would be a very bad thing to meet for me. And actually, Mother Ayahuasca literally took me to hell. And that hell was a little like this hell painted by Hieronymus Bosch, a truly terrible place, and a little like the place that the ancient Egyptians called the judgment hall of Osiris, where our souls are weighed in the scales in the presence of the gods against the feather of truth, of justice, of cosmic harmony. And I was shown that the path I was walking, my abuse of cannabis and the behavior associated with it, was going to lead me to be found wanting in the judgment, and that I might face annihilation in the world beyond death. So perhaps not surprising that when I came back to England later in October 2011, I gave up cannabis, and I've never smoked it again since then. And actually, and again, I'm speaking only personally with no comment on others' use of cannabis, it's as though a monkey has been lifted off my back. I'm liberated in incredible ways. Far from my creativity being inhibited, I find myself writing much more productively, much more creatively, much more focused, and much more efficiently as well. And I've begun to be able to address those negative aspects of my behavior, which cannabis had revealed, and hopefully to make myself slowly, it's a long progress, into a more nurturing, more loving, more positive person. And this whole transformation, it really has been a personal transformation for me, was made possible by this encounter with death that Mother Ayahuasca gave me.
You know, if you really paid attention to the language that he had during that TED Talk, you would think that you're at a Sunday night open mic where people are going up there sharing their testimony on how Jesus has saved their life. I mean, if you could literally replace the word Mother Ayahuasca with God, with Jesus, it'd be a beautiful testimony. He said, it healed my trauma. It showed me ultimate truth. It reset my life. I died and was reborn. Mother Ayahuasca saved me. This is conversion language. This is salvation language. This is testimony language, except the object of transformation is not Christ. It is Mother Ayahuasca, and he is a microcosm, guys. Understand that. He is one testimony now that is shared by millions and millions and millions of people all around the globe. All around the globe. And it is affecting everything. It is affecting our culture. It is affecting our movies. It is affecting the way this new generation is filtering and views Christianity, views higher powers. It's going to change the way universities work and operate. It's the film industry, how art is going to, and it's going to within my lifetime, if something doesn't change, and I believe it's not, because I believe that we are in the end of times, it is going to completely saturate and destroy this nation and the globe. I believe that it is going to be a part of a strong delusion. I believe it's going to be a part of some great end times lie. And I think that it is going to be prescribed by pharmacies, by psychiatrists. It's going to be given like candy. And I'll explain that in a second.
And it's a delusion, and it's a dangerous one. I think that's why this is such a scary type of deception. Because like you said, it's not like a recreational drug. And that's sort of what we think when people are in sin and they're in deception. You know, it's the devil on your shoulder saying, smoke this or take this and this will feel good. And then before you know it, you find yourself in the middle of addiction. But what's scary about this is you think about so many people who are in the midst of some kind of addiction, some kind of sin, and they hit rock bottom. And people that it could be so far from God, and they realize, I've hit rock bottom. I need some kind of help. That's for so many people, that's what drove them into a church for the first time. And, you know, we pray that they have a real experience with God, a real encounter, and it fosters like a real relationship. But so many people walk into a church as a self-help thing, because they're like, I'm broken, I've hit a rock bottom, and I need some kind of help. And that's what's so scary about this, because this is promising that help. This is saying, if there's some kind of self-destructive behavior in your life, if there's some addiction or something, this is your answer.
And Satan is giving them freedom, is giving them temporary freedom at the cost of eternity.
That's right.
At the cost of eternal salvation through Jesus Christ. He is lifting depression. He is lifting addiction. Like, I mean, it is a false temporary alleviation of what these people are seeking. Right? That's why it's so crazy. So I'm gonna change it. Listen, right here, this is where the show changes. Because up until this point, you are fully allowed to say, Zach, Drew, Andrew Bellers, y'all are a bunch of lunatics. Y'all a bunch of crazy, talking about crazy things. Go, why don't you go and be on Joe Rogan's program, right? It's just like, this is crazy.
I would do it.
I would too. That'd be amazing. That'd be really cool. At this point, I'm going to now build my case of why this is going to become mainstream. All right, this is the part where you're going to hear from the horse's mouth. Because I titled this section Ayahuasca, coming to a store near you. Today, the conversation is being reframed, not as mysticism, not as occultism, not as some jungle ritual, but as we've talked about, as therapy. It's being talked about in the context of depression, PTSD, addiction, even end of life, anxiety. That's the language now. Clinical language, institutional backing, university research. But here's what stopped me. Even in research settings, the transformation attributed, and this goes against all modern medicine, is not the molecule. It's not the chemical. What's being attributed to transformation is the experience. That's why this is so different. The perceived transcendence, the mystical encounter, the ego death, the revelation. So let me ask this plainly. If a substance consistently produces encounters described as intelligent, if it produces conversion level transformation language, if it opens people to spiritual frameworks detached from Christ. What exactly are we calling this? Are we calling it medicine, or are we calling it a gateway? And if you think this is fringe, now is the time where I go into the headlines. Psychedelics as a new frontier in mental health. Who is saying this? Is this your random conspiratorial uncle? No, this is American Psychological Association. Psychedelics, once taboo, are now openly discussed by mainstream psychology as medicine. Medical therapy, will it be a game changer? American Psychological Association, national professional body exploring psychedelics for anxiety, trauma, and mood disorders. Here's another one. This is from Nature Review from 2026. Psychedelic therapeutics in psychiatric conditions. Nature acknowledges, I'm talking about Nature Review, acknowledges an explosion of clinical research across depression, PTSD, anxiety with DMT. Psychedelics and mental health, a review of current research. Esketamine, already FDA approved. Ketamine, widely used off-label, while psilocybin, MDMA, DMT are actively in trials right now as we are doing this program. MDPI Review 2025, the therapeutic potential of psychedelics in treating addiction, and it's always about ayahuasca. Ayahuasca and psilocybin show promise in reducing cravings. Can you imagine that? Everybody wants to figure out how to reduce weight because that's how you become a gazillionaire.
Oh my gosh.
And now ayahuasca can help. There is something battling within you. Go and take this medicine. No, it's a gateway, not for the molecule, not for the chemical, but because of the experience. And you're going to come back with reduced cravings.
It's the news that bombed. It's ayahuasca.
These are major news outlets. Peer-reviewed medical journals, respected institutions. Here, Colorado Sun, now legal and policy developments. Colorado, Oregon, leading in state-driven psychedelics policy reform. Over 20 states now are considering legislation to legalize DMT on the lists of psychedelics. 20 states. But I've never heard of this. How is this happening? Everything that you're just taking, how is this happening? It's coming. I've been worrying about it for years. And a lot of you tune into my show. A lot of people tune in, they tune in casually. And then I'd make these wild projections and then they would come true. And they said, no, I'm tuning in every week. I'm telling you, this is another one. Ayahuasca and DMT within my lifetime is going to become common language at the dinner table. And I've been talking about it since no one. Now I can tell you right now, no one in the Christian circles is talking about it. The biggest health agency, right, in America, the NIH, National Institute of Health. Here's an article from them. This is NIH.gov. This is the official NIH government website. Psychedelic drug legislative reform in the U.S. Since 2019, dozens of state bills and initiatives have been introduced, projecting most states legalizing psychedelics, including ayahuasca, by the 2030s. Am I crazy now? Medical practice and access. Ketamine, psychedelics, and psychotherapy. NIH PMC paper, another, .gov, NIH.gov, talking about how psychedelics and ketamine treatments are increasingly mixed with psychotherapy. And they're blurring the line between medicine and altered states. California University to expand psychedelic studies, The Guardian. A U.S. university, now there's more than one now, offers a bachelor's in psychedelic studies, legitimizing this field in academia. Mainstream reporting on use trends. AP News. Believers say microdosing, and it's talking about microdosing DMT. Believers say microdosing helps them. Scientists trying to measure. Texas to fund first clinical studies of psychedelic drug to treat PTSD. Even traditionally conservative states like Texas are investing millions into clinical psychedelic research for PTSD. And the Financial Times, psychedelic nasal spray shows promise against depression. A new psychedelic nasal spray showed rapid, lasting antidepressant effects. Psychedelic therapy could soon be fast, accessible, and clinical. Because of the molecule? Because of the chemical? No, because of the religious experience. The gateway question. The gateway question. Ayahuasca isn't new. It's ancient, and now it's everywhere. It is opening doors to entities and giving people profound revelations completely detached from Christ. So the question isn't whether this works. The question is what is being encountered. And if you think this is fringe, it is not. This is no longer some weird jungle ritual. It is universities. It is clinical trials. It is institutional backing. And we're just getting started. That's before we even talk about the cultural side of this, because it's not just medicine. It's athletes, it's celebrities, it's tech leaders, and they're not hiding it. They're evangelizing it. They are evangelizing it. They are promoting it like you've never seen before. Aaron Rodgers, one of the most famous quarterbacks of all time. We're gonna just go through a quick list, rapid fire, okay? Publicly credits ayahuasca with changing his life and helping him win back-to-back MVP seasons. I was actually in Peru with Josh, and he's like, you know that Aaron Rodgers was just back here in Iquitos?
Wonder why.
He's described it as central to self-love and personal clarity. Mike Tyson, Mr. Aggressive Bulldog. There was this crazy change. What's going on with Mike Tyson? Well, guess what? He did a very weird, it was weird for me, interview on ESPN, the sports network, talking about how 5-MeO-DMT has changed, had softened. He's got a new perspective. Openly speaks about it as life-altering spiritual reset that completely transformed his identity and worldview. Mike Tyson. When elite athletes, hyper-competitive, mentally disciplined, physically elite, begin framing psychedelics as essential breakthrough tools, that normalizes it for millions and millions and millions of people watching and listening. Hollywood, Will Smith has openly discussed using ayahuasca and described it as a profound spiritual experience. Megan Fox talks about it. Chelsea Handler, I'm running out of time, so I'm going fast. Prince Harry publicly stated he used psychedelics, including ayahuasca, for trauma healing and self-discovery. Russell Brand, Sting, Paul Simon participated in ayahuasca ceremonies and spoke about the impact on his life and music. This is not secrecy, this is promotion. They are not whispering it, they are evangelizing it. Podcast and media influence, Joe Rogan, has spoken repeatedly about DMT, calling it a doorway into another dimension. And he, by the way, he has the single largest podcast platform in the world. In the world, by far, beats out every show combined on Fox News. Yeah. Every show combined. It is the largest listened to podcast in the world, openly talks about DMT as a doorway into another dimension. Graham Hancock, Aubrey Marcus, Tim Ferriss publicly discusses psychedelic experimentation and its role in mental performance and optimization. These are not obscure internet voices. Millions and billions of downloads, millions and hundreds of millions of listeners, hundreds and hundreds of millions of young men and women hearing, expand your consciousness through ayahuasca and DMT. Silicon Valley and tech culture, I don't have time to get into it. But there is a documented history of psychedelic experimentation and tech innovation circles. Microdosing DMT in startup culture is not conspiracy. We've talked about it before, how the people that are creating our technology, and the biggest technology companies that we can name by name, have said that is through their psychedelic experiences, oftentimes with DMT. They talk to entities and the entities tell them what to build. That's freaking wild, people.
And what they're building is AI, for the most part. We really don't have time to go into it, because that could be a whole show by itself.
It is. And the medical establishment, this moves from celebrity to clinical. We've already talked about, well, we haven't talked about it, but I don't have time to talk about it. Johns Hopkins, NYU, MAPS, FDA breakthrough therapy designations, publicly traded psychedelic companies. But the mechanism, repeatedly acknowledged, it's the mystical experience, the encounter. The scale, it's not thousands, it's millions. And now it's going to be, very soon, hundreds of millions. This is no longer subculture. So I'm going to say it clearly to you, okay? Grandma, if you're watching, grandmas, grandpas, you may not know the word ayahuasca, but you know some of the names. You know Johns Hopkins. You know the University of California. You know Aaron Rodgers, Prince Harry, Will Smith, Joe Rogan, Netflix, Silicon Valley. It's mainstream. And when something is celebrated by athletes, filmed by celebrities, discussed by tech leaders, studied by universities, and legalized by states, it is no longer a side issue. Wake up, people. Culture shifts of this magnitude rarely happen by accident. I do not believe that this is a coincidence. And here's what I keep coming back to. I didn't plan to go to the epicenter. I'm getting chills right now, guys. I got chills all over my body. I didn't think, let's strategically position ourselves in the ayahuasca capital. I just said yes to a missions trip. And I landed in Iquitos, Peru. Iquitos. And I want you to picture this. The elite of the world fly into one city in the Amazon. They land in Iquitos, Peru. They get off the plane, they board boats, and they travel down the Amazon River searching for transcendence, searching for spirits, searching for a revelation. And from that same city, from that same airport, from the same river docks, we can help build a training center that will raise up missionaries from the same place who will board boats and go down the same Amazon River, but not looking for spirits, carrying the Spirit of God. Not searching for revelations, but proclaiming the revelation of Jesus Christ. That's the reversal. Come on, people. That's why I said, Josh, I don't know if my partner is behind it, but I'm behind it. I am behind you, man. We're building this thing. We're sending out dozens and dozens of other mamertos to go deep into the Amazon jungle like we did and spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. The world flows one direction, the gospel flows another, my friend. Same jungle, same river, same departure point, two completely different kingdoms at work.
And that's the local impact. But I think at least one takeaway from this show is the global impact of that kind of work. Because we're talking about an epicenter in the world right now that is shaping culture. It's shaping the medical industry. It's shaping the tech industry. And to make an impact in that place is to make a global impact.
And isn't that how God always does this? He doesn't avoid dark places. He plants light in them. He doesn't retreat from spiritual strongholds. He establishes witnesses in them. I do not believe it was a coincidence that the ministry God has brought before us is being built in the very city where the counterfeit is booming. I said it last show. This ain't about dirt, people. This isn't about construction. It's about establishing a lighthouse in a port city of spiritual confusion. It is about training young men and women who will leave Iquitos and go village to village, proclaiming Jesus, the beautiful and wonderful name of Jesus, in every region the world now associates with altered consciousness. That is the mission. That is the Great Commission. And that is why I am saying to you, you need to get involved in this. Find out what God is doing, where God is moving, and get involved. We're out of time for today's show. Whew. We'll see you all next week.